This is a ground tour of our Xenos prototype number 1, which is 112 X-Ray Sierra. And this prototype Xenos has a twin ship out in California with the 3300 Jabiru. This 112 X-Ray Sierra Xenos has the Aero-V 2180 cc 80 horsepower engine, and we'll talk about kind of front to back here the features of the airplane. The propeller we're flying is what's become our standard propeller for the VW powered Xenos. It's a Sensenec, nice low profile propeller, a nice 56 diameter by 46 pitch with the AV5L blade on it. And you can see it's designed so that its frontal profile is as low as possible. So we're trying to reduce the drag of the airplane and still use a fixed pitch propeller. Other features, the Xenos shares the same brake in the aft portion of the fuselage from there forward with its cousins, the Sonex and the YX. And then it happens to have much longer wings here, a different airfoil, and a longer fuselage with about 1.5 feet longer of tail, to fly this bigger wing. One of the most common questions we get, can I go ahead and put a shorter wing on the Xenos and go fly it? And the answer is it's a bad idea because you've got all that tail back there. And the other question we get is, can I put this long wing on a standard Sonex? And the answer is no, because you don't have enough tail to fly it back there. So it's really known as horses for courses, building the right design for the stated mission. And here we have the ailerons. I'll point out they're a much shorter chord aileron than we have in our Sonex fleet, and you can see they run about half span, so there's plenty of aileron on this airplane to give you a nice roll rate, but it's obviously much slower because of the much larger wing and more inertia. And here we have our spoiler. So you can see it's a scaled spoiler right off the old Monterey series. So no flaps, just a straight trailing edge here to the wing. And that provides killing of the lift when you need to come down. There's a number of notches that you'll see in the flight video. Coming around back here, other features of the tail other than just being much larger than our Sonex tail, slightly different geometry than the YX tail as well. And you can see we've got this total energy probe out here at the tip of the tail. And that total energy probe is supposed to give you a look ahead as to what's coming in the air. So it's a common tool used by soaring pilots, and we've equipped our Xenos here with it. Moving into the cockpit, it's a pretty standard cockpit. It's got the dual control sticks. On the instrument panel itself, we've got the MGL Flight Horizon XL, which is the black and white version, and won't be, I don't think, available for too much longer as they move to the color versions. We've got a really old Garmin GPS that's a 196, and then we also have a total energy device, which I rarely turn on and rarely use. The VSI does the job for me. You'll hear me talk about that in flight. We have a little microwave radio, which we've slowly been replacing with our MGL radios in most of the fleet. Over here is just a 12-volt adapter, cigarette lighter adapter for whatever devices. You can see the antenna. There's just a whip antenna behind the windshield. Always carry a backup handheld radio just in case. And then you see on the left-hand quadrant here, we've got the throttle control, very similar to the other Sonex YX fleet. We have a trim indicator, which again I'll talk about in the flight video, our dial speed. And we also have a mixture knob. We've got our two primary and secondary ignitions, our starter, our master switch, and our instrument master switch. And then we also have a very simple turn and bank slip indicator there. And then we joke about the little panic button there. So when we have anything that comes out of the green arcs or yellow arcs, it gives us a little warning. And then down here, we have a single lever. So unlike the rest of our fleet, the Sonex and the YX, which have separate levers for the flaps and brakes, we have a single lever which is used for both spoiler and for brakes. So if I reach down here and pull it one notch, there you can see what it looks like. If we kept going to the next notch, we'd actually end up pulling brake along with our spoilers. So those are still, those brake cables moving forward have a little slack in them. that the brake wouldn't be going yet. And that's what the spoiler looks like, just the first notch. And it's surprisingly effective, just that little bit of spoiler. And look forward to showing it to you in flight, and hope you enjoy the ride. Hello. Welcome to the cockpit of Xenos. This is 112 X-Ray Sierra. This is one of two factory prototype Xenoses. And today I'd like to take advantage of this beautiful early winter day to give you a little flight in it. And I'll be giving you kind of a verbal tour of everything in the cockpit. And just go shoot some touch and goes. We'll do some power off flight, and there'll be some data displayed here that you'll be able to take notes on, or I'll report through the microphone. So the thing I failed to mention in the ground tour of the Xenos is that this has the aerobatic wingtips on it right now, which means just under 40 foot in span, and that we have the utility tips, which are just under 46 feet in span. And that makes it legal for a 2-passenger motor glider, where with these short tips, this is legal for a 1-passenger motor glider. So what I'm flying today with the motor off, I could not do with a second person unless I put the longer tips on. That's just the way the rules read. So I wanted to start with a tour of the cockpit before we lit it up here. Start with this handle. This is the locking handle for the canopy. So to get out, I actually have to pull the pin and lift the locks out of position. So this is a locking pin. We either have it on our throttle or hanging over the trim in a very obvious position. Very important that you always install this locking pin before we go flying. So that's pushed forward and that's in place. That means this can't come back and the canopy can't come open. Very important. I just have a 2-inch snap vent on either side, so I'm going to set that to forward so I don't get any cooling air coming over. And then kind of moving left to right across the panel, I have my throttle here. I have my trim, my mixture control, cockpit mixture control, which is really just a secondary fuel shutoff valve. I have my primary and secondary mags. This has the AeroV 2180 engine in it. I have the starter, the master, and the instrument master. I have a really simple slip indicator. These are the fuses, 20 amp, 5 amp, 3 amp. That's a joke. The panic button this just means we have a warning. This is the Stratomaster Flight Horizon XL, which is black and white with the yellow buttons. Very, very early. They don't even make it anymore. Garmin GPS 196. This is also obsolete, a very early Garmin. And then we have the Tasman Total Energy, which usually I don't even turn on. I use the VSI in this unit. We also have the Microware 760 panel-mounted radio, and then we have a very simple G-meter, which just has the springs up and down. And that's the basic tour of the cockpit. So now we're going to go ahead and light it up. And to do that, I also have, before I get started, I have my iPhone here in a little waterproof case, and I'm going to go ahead and pull up the CloudAhoy app and hit start. And this is 112 X-Ray Sierra. So I'll make this flight path public so you'll be able to kind of follow along when we do the flight. And I just set that right up there on my panel with a piece of Velcro. I'm going to turn the main fuel valve on, which I usually do with my foot. I just push my foot down underneath, flip it to full forward, and then I'm going to turn all my switches on. I'm going to make sure I have brake. So in this case, it's pulling the spoiler all the way to the last position, which sets the parking brake, and the spoilers are up on both sides. And I'm going to go ahead and go full rich. Clear prop! That just kicks off a few blades every time. Turn on the GPS. So again, that's the 196. Make sure that we're recording, which we are. I'm happy about that. And now the rest of the cockpit controls, so non-instrument related, we have the spoiler control, which again has that brake at the very last setting, and the pitch trim, which I'm going to set all the way in the nose down position for takeoff, and I can feel right underneath for the indicator to know where it is. Then I have my primary stick control, and I have dual rudder pedals in this airplane. This is direct steering, just like the rest of our fleet. I'll explain that as we start taxiing. So I'm going to release the parking brake and start taxiing out. And I got a nice long wing on this, so I got to be careful, look around and make sure I don't run into anything. So just pulling out. Pull the idle and just pull it to a stop. So this has the old mechanical brakes in it, so I just go to pull to a stop. And I just want to talk about direct steering for a minute. So with the direct steering, we don't have a full swivering, full castering tail wheel. It just has a direct link to the rudder. So when I go to push left rudder pedal, I get left tail wheel input. When I push right rudder, I get right tail wheel input. So there's none of that dancing on the rudder pedals. I think this airplane actually tends to make you a little bit lazy compared to other tail draggers because it is so easy to fly. So I'm going to pull it up a little further and reduce the power. And I'm going to go ahead and call in and get the ATIS. 2986 for the altimeter. So I'm going to set that. And we're at 800 feet of above sea level, so that's what it's reading. 810 feet. Information Tango, and I'll go right back through one more time and read off some temperatures. 220 at 7 wind, visibility 10, temperature 12. That's good. It's a crisp day. So now as I taxi up, I'm on the Juliet Taxiway. And this, actually I was on Kilo, is where Sonex is. I taxied up to Juliet. Juliet basically connects, to those that have been at Whitman before, it connects the north end of 36 with the, basically the numbers at 27. So it just cuts across. So it's an easy way to transition between the different runways here at Whitman that we are so incredibly spoiled with having. Lots of options here. So with the Xenos, I'm just keeping it in the center. Not working very hard on taxi, as you can see, but it's also a pretty calm day, so not much to do here. But I'm going to pull it up to the hold short line and use my brakes. So again, with the brakes, we don't have differential braking. So we pull it right up. And we simply can pull the brakes to stop. And then again, those are the mechanical brakes. And I'll read off some engine information here. We've got current oil temp of 86, it's a little low. Pressure of 68, it's right where we want to be, even at a low RPM. The CHTs of 190, 200, and the EGTs of 810, 780. So we haven't even warmed up the engine yet, but it runs like a top. What I'd like to demonstrate today is really just do a quick takeoff, show you what a climb out feels like, do a touch and go, and then do some, actually kill the power and do some approaches with no power. Those are really fun, peaceful approaches in this airplane. The Xenos, compared to the rest of the fleet, I mean, really flies like it's on rails. You advance the throttle, you keep it going straight with your feet, and it just takes off and flies for you. It's very comfortable. It's a stall-proof airplane. Excuse me, not stall-proof, spin-proof airplane. Certainly not stall-proof. But it flies very slow, and it has a very good climb rate because of its big wing area compared to the rest of the fleet. And that's what it was designed to do, to shut it down and still be able to do some decent soaring. So now I'm going to do a quick run up here. I'm going to run it up. I usually, on my engine run up, I'll only run it up to about 1,800 to 2,000 RPM. There's 18, there's 2,000. Kill one mag. Just look for a little bit of a drop off, which I saw there. And kill the other mag. Again, looking for a little bit of a drop off there, and I'm good, and I'm happy. Just checking the camera, making sure I'm recording.
and everything feels good. So I'm going to go ahead and call the tower. Oshkosh Tower, experimental Xenos 112 X-ray Sierra, runway 27, ready to go, touch and go. And here comes a twin on final. So as soon as he comes in, we'll be cleared to take off, and look forward to showing you this bird. It's a really, you know, when I want a nice, peaceful flying experience, this is the airplane that I choose to go flying in. It just is a really comfortable airplane to fly, and something that I also am very comfortable giving just about anybody a ride in, even if they aren't necessarily comfortable with flying, because of that experience, because of that kind of simpler feel, lighter feel. As far as the control and the harmony and the feel of the airplane, I definitely would compare a Xenos, flying a Xenos, to flying a Sonex with 1 degree of flaps, with 10 degrees or 15 degrees of flaps. And that's just when you go, you have all that inertia in the wings. When you go to make a left-hand turn, there's a little bit of a delay, and you'll see my control inputs are very deliberate. But just like all the airplanes in the fleet, you'll see me flying with just a couple of fingers. Probably. As a standard experience, we see people really want to over-control these things. And I think the best advice I can give you in flying this airplane is just let it happen. Just a couple of fingers, light control inputs, and everything will happen very slowly and deliberately, and that's what we're looking for. 2 X-ray Sierra, left closed on the go, clear for takeoff 27. So again, in the takeoff sequence, we're just gonna taxi it on out, get it centered, and then I'm just gonna advance the throttle, and I'll call out the RPMs. This is our standard Sensenich Xenos propeller that we have on this airplane. So this is exactly what you should expect in your Xenos with an Aerobatic power plant. So here we go. I'm going to slowly increase the throttle. I have both my feet on the rudder pedals, and I'm just keeping it pointed straight ahead. That's all I'm focused on. I'll be off the ground in no time. And we're off. Just that quickly. I had to correct because that has a pretty good crosswind. That wind I called out is basically out of the south. So we took off with a little bit of, I'll put a crab in it right away. I'm seeing RPM of just about 3,000 RPM, climb speed of 74 miles an hour, a climb rate of bouncing between 750 and 1,000 feet per minute without breaking a sweat. I think that I can actually increase that by lowering the nose. So it's interesting about doing your own flight testing for your best VX and your best VY speed to find out where the airplane is most comfortable flying. There's 80 miles an hour. And again, sometimes it's hard to get trends when you just look at a number, so that's why it's nice that we have this recording software going for us. There is all of 3,000 RPM, 3,100 RPM. It's about 1,100 feet a minute just now. It's going to bounce around a little bit. Directly over EAA, so if you're able to see out the nose, we'll be turning right over the convention grounds. We're now flying due south, right over Highway 41, heading south. There's pattern altitude already, so I can reduce power. And crosswind, easily able to be at pattern altitude in a short amount of time. Two X-ray Sierra, roger, clear for the op. So now in a standard pattern with this airplane, which there's no reason we can't fly a Xenos like a standard powered aircraft. We just don't have flaps. So instead, the best way, to those of you that haven't flown gliders before or aren't familiar, the best way, in my opinion, to explain how a spoiler works is as another throttle. When you put spoiler in, it kills lift to the wings, so you're actually decreasing altitude. So like you powered pilots are always trained, your pitch controls your airspeed, and your power controls your altitude. So when I go to pull power like I just did, I'm immediately going to see a descent. I happen to be in a glider that had some energy, so it's going to take a little while, but I will eventually see a descent. And if I don't, I should stay up and go soaring for a while. Shut the motor down. So here I'm just on a straight easterly direction coming up on Lake Winnebago, the west shore of Lake Winnebago. And it feels really comfortable, so I'm going to go ahead and pull the trim. This is what I call the dial-a-speed trim. Only has about 12 or 14 turns from full forward to full back. So it just takes a couple of turns to kill your stick pressure and fly whatever speed you want to. In this case, 63 miles an hour. Again, pitch works just like a powered airplane. Pitch controls your airspeed. So I'm going to pull power. I'm seeing a descent rate of only 300 feet a minute, so I'm going to give myself 1 notch of spoilers. And I'll immediately feel a little bit of a pitch change, and I'll see my descent rate increase to minus 760 feet per minute with 1 notch of spoilers. Now I'll pull a second notch. Elevator going down, everybody. Now I'm at minus 860 feet per minute at the same airspeed, 62 miles an hour. It feels great in this airplane. There's minus 1,000. I'm way high, so I'm going to go ahead and pull full spoiler. Very important not to land with full spoiler because we've tied it to the brake. So you have to let up the spoiler before you go and land the airplane. If you can see it straight ahead, the VASI, which are the white lights to the left, all 4 of them, all are saying we're way high for an approach, which is how I fly every one of these airplanes. The standard approach means nothing to me because I always want to make the runway. So there we saw descent rates approaching 1,400 feet a minute with this airplane with those full spoilers. And now I finally see some red lights. And I'm going 57 miles an hour. Feels like I can get out and walk next to it. And I add just a little bit of power, make sure I make the runway. So that was not the greatest approach. And I'm going to pull power and small flare, and boom, I'm down. That is a easy landing in the Xenos at 55 miles an hour, now 30 miles an hour. So just isn't any energy for bad stuff to happen when this airplane is flown properly. So we're going to straighten it out. We're going to add power. We're going to dial our trim back down is really all we have to remember. And if we don't, we just overcome it with stick pressure. And add power, and away we go. Keep it straight. And up we fly. Best job in the world. So in this airplane, probably like the others, but more so than the others, I can really tell what the air is doing. And today, with this big wing area, tonight, it is just calm. Really beautiful flying day today. And I'm already at pattern altitude. I'm going to reduce power. Alright, so we're easily at pattern altitude. And Tower 2 X-ray Sierra, midfield left downwind 27, touch and go. 2 X-ray Sierra, roger. All right, so I'm gonna pull power again. And this time I'm gonna turn the secondary ignition off and pull the mixture to full lean. Turn the other ignition off. Now what we just, to kill the power, we just pulled the mixture to full lean. I'm gonna go ahead and put spoiler in right away. This is another traffic that's trying to get in. And it just flies very naturally with no power. Pretty sweet. 57 miles per hour. So now I'm just diving at the runway at 65 miles an hour, no power. I'm using my spoilers like a throttle. So I want to descend, so I'll pull the spoiler back. And that'll give me a descent rate of minus 1530, 1600, almost 1700 feet a minute in descent at 77 miles an hour. Now release that full spoiler, I'll straighten it out. And I'll land it just like I was under power. In fact, sometimes you'll see me grab for the power. But I'm just bringing it down, and I'm going to slowly flare the airplane. Slowly flare. And I'm done flying. So I land. Beautiful. Ignition's back on. Fuel on. I'll start up. Make sure my spoilers are up. And my trim is back down, and I add full power. And I keep it straight. And away we go. Woo. Bumpy right there. See my inputs, I'm still just flying with a few fingers, but the inputs are quite slow. So, you know, it's like the Sonex or the 1X, we'd be really dipping the wings, and here I can get away with a pretty aggressive control input. Not that much happens. Just great. And that's pattern altitude. And Tower 112 X-rays here, just turn left downwind for 27. Two X-rays here, roger, looking for that traffic, and this will be a full stop. Okay, so we're gonna cut the power a little earlier. We're at 2,100 feet. I'm gonna again pull the mixture. This time we're not gonna put spoilers in right away, so you can get a better feel for soaring performance, at least in the sinkhole we call Oshkosh. Two X-rays here, I have that traffic cleared to land. So here is not doing anything, just flying along at 48 miles an hour in kind of a crosswind. The wind's coming out of the south. And I'm seeing 220 feet per minute, 200 feet per minute in descent at 47 miles an hour. It's where it really naturally wants to fly. It just feels very good there. So soaring, same as flying underpowered flight. You want to do a nice coordinated turn. We just don't have all that noise coming from up there. Sweet. One notch of spoilers, just as I turn base leg here, so you could see that. Minus 540. Second notch of spoilers. Let that establish at 53 miles an hour. Minus 880, 890. And full spoiler. Minus 1,000. Minus 1360. 1460, 1600 feet per minute in descent. There's the red numbers. And start our flare. And boom. We're lit up so we can get off the runway. That's it. Two extras here. Have a great night. Thanks, Brian. So here we are on Alpha. So we made easily that landing, lit it back up, made the turn off, all between the displaced threshold and Alpha Taxiway. So you can really operate. This is, people like to talk about a short takeoff and landing, a lot of our competitors and others. Well, I think this is definitely the Sonex entry into the short takeoff and landing. I mean, we can get off in some very, very short runways, get down stopped, and also just a few hundred feet for a pilot that, again, flies with very low energy, flies understanding the product. That's really what it's all about. So now we're taxiing back in here, the Juliet Taxiway. So we just kind of did a big old circle. And we're coming back to our Sonex facilities, which are located right here off the Kilo Taxiway. And again, I'm only using the brake just to slow so I can make the turn, make sure I don't run into anything, make sure I can make a clearing turn. And there I am, straightened out. And you'll see straight ahead the main Sonex offices, our flight center, our R&D center, and then here is our warehouse. So I'm just going to pull up to the R&D center and shut her down here. And you'll see some construction equipment up here on the left-hand side. That is actually our new addition to the Sonex warehouse that's being worked on here. So I'm just going to pull it on up and go through the shutdown procedure with you. So as I pull it up here, I'll pull it to a stop. And then shut down, since this is a fuel valve, just like I did when I was in the air, I'm simply going to increase the throttle. And I want the spark plugs to be nice and clean. So I'm going to increase the throttle, let it run a little bit, and then I'm just going to pull the mixture to full lean, and that kills the power. Go right across and shut off my switches. And for just about a half hour of filming time and 17 minutes of flight time, we can have a heck of a lot of fun. So until next time, thanks for joining me.